This video is a brief summary of what I've learned while completing the Instructional Technology Master's Degree program at Regis University here in Denver, Colorado. I've been a teacher for 20 years now in the area of business, finance, and multimedia, and the use of technologies has always been part of my teaching style. Even with my technology knowledge before beginning this program, I was pleasantly surprised at the wealth of digital tools that exist. These tools can be extremely useful to teachers to use them to help educate their students. I have come away with many new digital tools that I am implementing with my students and really love using them. I hope to help guide fellow teachers towards digital tools that can enrich their lessons and engage their students. Hi, I'm Richard Cole, and I decided to pursue my master's in instructional technology at Regis University for a number of reasons. First off, qualifications. I teach multimedia at South High School, and recently the Colorado Department of Education decided to change the qualifications for business teachers teaching multimedia. Now you have to be digital art certified, so I decided to come to Regis to take media classes, which turned into this master's program. Second, I recently became aware of the numerous digital technology tools that exist out there, and furthering my education became the most logical option. And finally, I wanted the pay increase that comes with having a master's degree when you're a teacher, mainly because my wife and I had two beautiful daughters, Ava and Riley. I invite you to take a tour of my Capstone website. It'll give you an idea of the knowledge that can be acquired through a program like this. The first link next to home will connect you to a page containing my personal educational philosophy. Even though I was and still am a social constructivist, I have learned new teaching methods to apply to my philosophy, making my lessons richer and increasing student engagement in my classes. To the left of this link is a link that contains all the references that I used during my studies. So the real content actually exists in my program of study link. As you can see, all the courses I took are in this area, and you can learn quite a bit about what this program entails. We're going to start out with my first course, EDTC 600, Pedagogical Practices. Pedagogical Practices. My first assignment for this course was to research instructional technology professional organizations. While there are quite a few of them out there, I follow ISTE, TIE, and SETDA. Having been out of college for 20 years, I'm glad that our next assignment focused on how to research and what resources are available to us to use. Throughout this assignment, I created a series of lessons to teach high school students how to conduct proper research. Learning theories of behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism were presented in a way that I hadn't considered in the past, making this learning objective very valuable to me. I hadn't recently thought about which school of thought I followed, but now realize that I'm in line with Jean Piaget's social constructivism theory. A large portion of this class was devoted to creating a presentation centered on the history and philosophy of behaviorism in education. My classmate Mark Watkins and I put together a very impressive presentation that I'm very proud of. While this educational philosophy isn't in favor as it was when many of us were students, a large portion of most teachers' classroom management strategies still reside in the theory of behaviorism. Even though I had heard of Marzano's instructional strategies before entering this program, I didn't grasp the full benefits that understanding these principles as I did after researching, reading, and creating products demonstrating complete understanding of these 9 strategies. Further instructional strategies were investigated through Bloom's taxonomy and the 6 key terms used to create activities for student learning. The major emphasis here is to move students from the lower order thinking skills, or LOTS, to higher order thinking skills, or HOTS. This move is in line with the Partnership for Education's 21st Century Skills that all students should have to be prepared for the world of tomorrow. The International Society for Technology and Education recommends standards for students and teachers to help improve the education of our students. The standards for students center on evaluating the skills and knowledge students need to learn effectively and live productively in an increasingly global and digital world. The standards for teachers are to evaluate the skills and knowledge educators need to teach, work, and learn in an increasingly connected global and digital society. There are digital divides that are barriers to learning that many of our students face every day. It is our duty as educators to help find ways to reduce these barriers to help these students achieve success. The principles from the Center of Universal Design for Learning are a must for all teachers to check out to help reduce any barriers to education our students face. The final objective of this course was to create a TPCK or TPAC planning tool to help any educator find ways to combine their pedagogy and content knowledge with technology to be able to create effective lessons. I developed my first real website using Google Sites to create my product for this assignment. Be sure to check out this artifact while exploring my site. Integrating technology into the classroom. I have noticed through my 20 years of teaching that many educators become very set in their ways and are not very open to trying something new in the classroom. Generational issues will probably be an obstacle to technology integration in schools for some time to come. The first topic of this course was to research and discuss the generational issues that exist in regards to technology use and create a synopsis of change that both understands the difficulties with making a transition into integrating technology and how to approach these difficulties. To help ensure that educators of tomorrow are prepared to use instructional technologies, minimum technology requirements need to be set by each state's licensing body. This has been done in Colorado. A major consideration when integrating technology into a school is the budget that's available to purchase hardware and software. Financial obstacles can be a large barrier for some schools. I collaborated with my classmates in creating a list of what constitutes internet safety for our students, created 3 new lesson plans centering on integrating technology into my curriculum, and also developed a presentation that showcased digital tools that teachers from literacy, math, science, and social studies could utilize. We researched the differences between formative and summative assessments as well as digital strategies that could be employed to assist the teacher with these assessments. Since so much of our students' research will be online, methods for evaluating websites for educational use were researched, and we created a checklist document to aid teachers in this endeavor. Finally, I created my first social bookmarking account with Delicious. This is a great way to keep all of your favorite and important resources in one place to be accessed wherever and whenever you wish. This tool can be extremely beneficial to students as a place to keep important resources they find while researching for projects. Web development for educational use. Creating a website in EDT 600 for my TPAC planning tool was a good experience, but I felt very limited with the abilities of this tool in the design and layout of my pages. EDTC 603 Web Development for Educational Use was just the class I was looking for to improve the appearance of my presence on the web. There are many parallels between the invention of the Gutenberg press and today's internet revolution. Gutenberg's invention cracked open the door for more people to discover information through mass reading, while the internet has knocked down that door, allowing users to obtain even more knowledge than in the past. I learned of the F pattern that most web page viewers use when reading a web page. Knowing this can help in developing web pages to ensure that users will stay and read your information. We created posters to highlight reasons that educators need a web presence. Now that I build websites with my students, I think a poster could also be made for them to entice all students to build a web presence. One of the easiest ways for anyone to gain a web presence is to use a content management system to create one. Many CMS platforms offer specializations in areas like blogs, image galleries, wikis, forums, learning management, e-commerce, and more. These tools offer relatively simple user interfaces and can have your site up and running in no time. My first choice for a CMS was WordPress.com because of its popularity on the web, ease of use, and being free, which is always good. With a great set of theme templates, an easy-to-use WYSIWYG editor, and plenty of useful widgets, WordPress.com is a great starter website tool. As this Capstone portfolio website grew, I decided more features and power were needed, so I decided to move to WordPress.org and host my own website. What made this very easy was the ability to move everything from my .com website over to my new .org website. The number of widgets and more powerful themes was only part of the reason I made the switch. The number of plugins you can add to WordPress.org sites is awesome. I now host my own videos instead of exclusively using YouTube to post them. Have engaging slideshows on my main page. I'm glad I made the switch. To get started making a website, you must first create a sitemap to get an idea of the pages, content, and organizational hierarchy that the site will employ. My mind mapping tool will do the trick. After your sitemap is created, the next step is to create a wireframe mock-up of what the site will look like from the main page to subpages. Learning some HTML code is a good idea for every web page builder. Most site building tools have an option to allow the user to enter their own HTML code to tweak the pages even more. A great website was introduced that is an excellent resource for learning how to code called w3schools.com. I learned much of my coding knowledge using this resource. With the website building tool in hand and my sitemap and wireframe mockup done, the next step is to begin building the website. Having a strong knowledge of your target audience will help guide many of your design choices. Choices in color, typography, and site navigation can then be identified to be able to create a website that is appealing to the intended demographic. Images are often added to web pages, and not all images are of the correct size or dimensions, so having skills using an image editing tool can come in very handy. I am a casual user of Photoshop, but this tool isn't a reality for many students to use outside of my class due to its cost. Throughout this program, I was introduced to a high-quality free online editing tool called Pixlr that I now use with my students to edit images for their WordPress websites and also their video projects. The final topic of this course offered a wealth of free image use through the Creative Commons image repositories. With the risk of copyright infringement for using images found on Google and similar searches, image resources like these are a boon to those that need images for their works. As part of this assignment, I created a Copyright Law versus Creative Commons Prezi that covers this topic in great detail. Instructional design. We began this course by researching the components of backwards design unit plans by creating a context map to understand our current situations by connecting our TPCK framework into the unit plan and by evaluating our current state and our desired state that we want for our students, coupled with assessments used to fuel the entire process. We focused on assessment for learning activities to change the focus from the traditional assessments of learning and drive lesson planning as we move forward through the unit. We developed a tracking tool to help assess student performance of comprehension of the unit competencies, which I now use with my students. They use this rubric as well for peer assessments of each other's work. We dove into ways to help struggling students by using tools like Response to Intervention, or RTI, to help them find success. When building the individual lessons that teach towards the goals of the backward design unit plan, pedagogy and process concerns are paramount. Concerns like which instructional strategies to use, how to incorporate 21st century skills and nets for students to help students achieve the standards for the lessons. When designing activities to use with students, considerations also need to be made when teaching with learning objects to see if they are effective and warrant use. I developed a simple 5-point guide to help evaluate the tools that I chose to use with my students. Finally, as a final project for this course, I completed an entire backwards design unit plan with 5 lessons that I currently use to teach my students how to use the animated graphics program Adobe After Effects. Creating unit and lesson plans has become more thorough and easier to do thanks to the knowledge I gained from taking instructional design. Multimedia 1. This course covered a wide array of multimedia tool categories and how they relate to education. Understanding how to use interactive whiteboards with students and how to get them involved with using them was our first topic. This lesson came in handy as I had just received an Epson Brightlink interactive projector to use when demonstrating software to my students, and now I have more options with how to use this whiteboard. Most learners are visual learners, and adding this type of learning to the class can be very powerful. There are useful tools available online that teachers can use to help their students learn visually. Tools like Poll Everywhere, Comic Strip Creator, Prezi, Pixlr, GIMP, Audacity, Storyboard That, and FileLab round out some of the best free offerings that I learned about. I also teach how to use Adobe products, as they are the leader in their field, using tools like Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, and Illustrator. I had heard the term blended learning in the past, but was unfamiliar with it until taking this class. The idea of the flipped classroom and using digital tools to allow for multiple means of acquisition is key to blended learning success. I now employ a variation of blended learning with my students, having them use my classroom website to learn some about their topics as well as lessons that I lead in class. This approach has been very successful. Next up was to learn more about blogging and microblogging. From the web development course, I had become familiar with how to create blog sites using tools like WordPress, but this lesson centered on how to use blogging in activities with students. I like the use of blogging and use it with my students as a way for them to reflect on what they've learned at the end of each unit. Peer review of blogs are also performed by my students. Microblogging was completely new to me entering this class. I didn't even have a Twitter account, although I do now. While this tool has some use in communicating with students, I prefer to keep communications like these in the realm of our blogs, email, and our LMS threads. One major plus to microblogging, though, is the ability for your students to follow and read thoughts from people that they admire and could learn from. My favorite form of microblogging is the use of Facebook to keep up with friends and family, and Google+ for professional followings. Trying to organize thoughts for a big idea or project can be a daunting task. This can be made easier through the use of mind mapping tools to help organize your thoughts and ideas. These tools are often collaborative, so many members of a learning group can work together to share and create their ideas. One of my favorite mind mapping tools is Poplet due to its ease of use and being free. I really enjoy creating and reading timelines, so one of my favorite tools from this course was the digital timeline creation tool called Tiki-Taki, which I use to create a timeline focused on the history of education from the beginning of time until now. Some software is free and others you have to pay for. Is there an advantage of using either over the other? Of course, free software has the advantage of being free, but that often comes with limitations to use of features, but not always. Many tools exist today that are free and offer a wealth of features for use, like Prezi, Google Docs, OpenOffice, Pixlr, and more. On the paid side, you usually get software that is full of features and usually offers better customer support and training than the free options. An excellent development in the area of free software is in the world of open source projects. There are many professional quality digital tools available for use by our students, and since they are free, the barrier to their use is greatly diminished. Some of my favorite open source offerings are OpenOffice, which does just about everything that Microsoft's Office can do; Audacity, edit voice and music to create your own audio files for videos, podcasts, screencasts, music recordings, and more; VideoLAN, an open source media player and a non-linear video editor as well; Lightworks, a professional quality video editing platform; GIMP is an image editing tool that can rival works created in Photoshop; and Blender, a 3D graphics creation and animation tool that can create as well as professional programs like Maya and 3D Max. The final topic in this course centered on how to utilize cells and smartphones in the classroom. Simple cell phones can be used, and most students have them, with tools like Pull Everywhere to visualize results of student responses to question items. And smartphones need to be considered as they can do almost everything a computer can do. My final projects for this class were 2 lesson plans utilizing multimedia tools with my students. For my first lesson plan, I have my students use Prezi in small groups to create a presentation that answers the question, what is multimedia? The second lesson plan is taught while my students are in the process of creating these Prezi presentations, a lesson on how to use image editing programs like Pixlr. Students can then edit their images for use in their presentation. Multimedia 2. This course took a deeper look into the world of multimedia and how to use these tools to help our students succeed. We began this course by investigating copyright exceptions in regards to multimedia creations. I created a very detailed Prezi on this topic in another class and built upon it with this Poplet mind map. Not only can you use text and images to organize the information, but you can also embed videos in Poplet, which is very easy. For our first project, we learned about creating video mashups and then created our own. I found a few mashups that I really liked and added them to the mashups page on my website, especially Brian Williams doing Rapper's Delight.
Two friends along, and And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song.
Check it out. And the C-A-S-N-D-O-V. And the rest is F-L-Y. You see, I go by the code of the doctor of the mix, and these reasons I'll tell you why. You see, I'm 6'1", and it turns up on, and I dress to a teen. You see, I've got more clothes than Muhammad Ali, and I dress so viciously. Everybody go, hotel, motel. What you gonna do today?
Say what?
Because I'm a get a line rule and I get some spanky drive off and the death OJ. Everybody go,
Hotel, motel, holiday inn. Say if your girl starts acting up, then you take her friend.
While creating a mashup requires a lot of work and video research, I've added this as an option for a video assignment in my multimedia classes for their final video projects. We had to research the video production process to guide us in creating our video mashups, and created a presentation on our findings. Since I have been teaching this process for over 10 years now, it was somewhat easy to do this, and very beneficial to me because now I have a resource with all of my resources on the video production process in one place. I had known about podcasting for years now, but didn't realize the wealth of information that could be found, making them a very useful resource for educators. Searching for podcasts brings up quite a few options where you can simply find the abundance of them within iTunes. Since podcasts have evolved to include video podcasts as well, the medium can be much better received by their audiences. I took a crack at creating some video podcasts using screencasting software to provide additional tutorials to my students on tools that we use in class, like Pixlr, Photoshop's clone stamping tool, and also using Photoshop to create 3D text for use in their videos. Next up was citizen journalism, which is based on public citizens playing an active role in the process of collecting, reporting, analyzing, and disseminating news and information. This information can be reported via text and written blogs and citizen journalism hosting websites, or video uploads to YouTube and other related websites. This could be a great way to engage students into researching, writing, and reporting. Video conferencing is a tool that I see great potential for use in education. The ability to have everyone involved in the conversation engages viewers, unlike sitting at a live conference. Google offers a solid video conferencing option called Hangouts that allows for use of up to 10 people at the same time for free. Additional features include the ability to share items through Google Drive, collaborate on documents using Google Docs, screen sharing, recording of the session, and more. And if 10 users isn't enough, there are paid-for programs that can handle 50 or more users. We explored the world of simulations and manipulatives and found some pretty cool ways to learn, especially in the fields of math and science. We learned how to make our own 3D creations using Google's SketchUp. I chose to make a 3D model of my home. I recently used this tool with my stagecraft students to have them design our sets for the fall play Flowers for Algernon. I created a very useful digital photography presentation using Google Slideshow to help students understand how to use both the camera and related editing software. I have been teaching this for years, but my resources are all spread out. But since the creation of this resource, I've been able to share it with them all in one place. We also learned how to use an advanced photo editing tool for this course, and I chose Photoshop. I was able to locate many tutorials that aren't too difficult to follow if you know the program's interface. I chose to make 5 different images to learn more about text and image creation. As you can see, these projects came out fairly well for Photoshop novice like me. My favorites are the Neon Rebels sign and this movie poster, blending together 2 images. The final project for this course aimed to put all of our skills in audio, video, and image editing to use to learn how to create digital stories. I like this project and have my students do this as an option for their multimedia course final project, but I've never created one myself. It was a lot of work, but I enjoyed working within the video creation process to create a digital story about myself. Fundamentals of Programming. I decided to take this course as my second elective to see how much I remembered about computer programming since my undergraduate work back in the late 80s. I am experienced using Fortran and BASIC to write programs for computers. I was even a tutor for our programming lab at my college. Fundamentals of Programming uses the C programming language as the language we'd learn, and for good reason. Most every programming language in use today owes its existence to C. I did learn in our first assignment on the history of computer programming that C actually has its roots in Fortran, the language I know, or at least knew. As I progressed through this course, I was surprised at how much I did remember and how much it helped me. The majority of this course centered on the research discussions for each week and programs submitted as well. For the discussions, I found them to be the most challenging and stimulating of any course I took at Regis. Each week's discussion topic usually helped to solve that week's programming problem. My favorite discussions were Week 4's differences between good code and bad code, and Week 6, what is an effective programmer? We turned in numerous programs that built upon each other as we progressed through the learning C programming language. The most difficult and rewarding was Week 4's Tower of Hanoi, as it was difficult for me to write recursive codes at first. I enjoyed this course and think it was the most difficult of all courses I took in this program. Understanding computer code, though, is what has made it so easy for me to stay up with technology as it evolves. I hope to find some time in the future to learn more about Java and Android coding as well. Advanced Web Development. For my third elective in this program, I decided to take the Advanced Web Development course in order to further my abilities in this area. Our first major topic focused on what the major differences were between CMS platforms and LMS ones. There are many solid options available to the educational world to help teachers move towards a more blended learning approach and offer their coursework online, as well as in the classroom. While there are many good choices for learning management systems that can be bought, like Desire to Learn and Blackboard, there are many more that cost nothing to have that have the power of the paid-for programs. As part of the assignment, I created a table that shows the differences and similarities between proprietary and open source LMS options. I also spent a lot of time researching CMS for use in addition to WordPress, and it seems that Joomla is the best option, maybe even better than WordPress, although some technological knowledge is required before taking on a CMS like Joomla. I decided to create a review video on this CMS. I also created a review video for the LMS Moodle, as it is probably the top LMS in the open source market. Since we are planning on rolling out Moodle to all of our core content area teachers at my school next year, and I have been asked to help in this rollout, I decided to investigate Moodle a bit more. I created a Moodle account, created some courses, and as part of my research, I also created a Moodle basic documents to aid in capturing what I learned. With so many solid options available to use for a CMS to create a website, it can be difficult to make a choice. For users that may not be IT professionals but would like to be able to create a web presence, I recommend using WordPress.com, as it is free and fairly easy to learn and use. It has an easy-to-learn WYSIWYG editor, plenty of professional templates to choose from, widgets to spice up your pages, and much more. But when it comes to comparing the WordPress.com version to the .org, there is no comparison. The .org version of WordPress offers just about anything a website designer could want in a CMS to be able to create professional sites with little to no cost. Finally, I also created a new website using Adobe Dreamweaver to give this website building program a test drive. While Dreamweaver can allow anyone to create a professional website from scratch, it can be a bit overwhelming for most users to try. I do plan on using Dreamweaver more in the future on occasion, however, as this program can open WordPress.org pages and give me more control over page layout and design than with a traditional WordPress dashboard. Virtual collaboration and communication. We researched and discussed blogs and wikis and created our wiki for an assignment. I decided to create mine about the video production process to provide a resource that is a bit easier to follow than the Prezi I made on the same topic. This wiki is more of a website than a collaborative tool to use for planning, but is still very effective for its purpose. We also investigated the adjustments made to Bloom's taxonomy to modernize it for today's digital world. Most of the activities for each verb have been updated with the use of current technology tools in mind. Finding ways to integrate Marzano's instructional strategies with the use of Bloom's revised taxonomy allows for activities that students can do that should result in student success. We also researched acceptable use policies and their importance to keeping our students safe online. As part of this topic, we paired up with a classmate to create our own AUP for a school of our choice. The use of social networking sites in the classroom was also explored. through tools like Pinterest, Twitter, Schoolology, and Edmodo. With so much emphasis placed on communicating in the digital world today, rules for etiquette and behavior are still evolving. We created digital citizenship policies with our partners to help prepare our students for an appropriate existence in the digital world. The use of virtual reality and simulations is a trend that should be a major player in the world of tomorrow, so teaching students how to navigate these tools is a must. I created a basic mind map using Poplet to demonstrate some of the major options available today. We also evaluated assessment tools to help streamline and make this part of a teacher's job easier to manage. We spent a few weeks on the topic of online learning and its effectiveness in the K-12 environment. While this is a good fit for a college education for some, I feel that online learning should be used in conjunction with classroom instruction at the high school levels and below. What was a nice find from this course was that knowledge of the availability of open source online courses offered from major universities like Harvard and MIT. Freeing information is a way for the masses to be able to rise up from their lots in life. With the emergence of Google apps, Google has become a very big player in the world of education. There are quite a few offerings available from Google apps that could be useful in any classroom. I can say that completing this Regis University Master's Program in Instructional Technology was one of the wisest things that I've probably done in my life. I have come away with a renewed focus on my classroom pedagogy and social constructivism, additional content knowledge to add to my technology program, and I am equipped with an abundance of technology knowledge that I can't wait to start sharing with others.